The Shepherdess and the Chimney Sweep. Hello, this is Natasha, and I'm dropping by with a charming story by Hans Christian Andersen. It's about two porcelain figures. As you may know, porcelain is like china, only more delicate. Well, these porcelain figures could talk and had feelings just like real people. In fact, they were in love. This story is called The Shepherdess and the Chimney Sweep. Have you ever seen a very old chest, black with age and covered with outlandish carved ornaments and curling leaves? Well, in a certain parlour there was just such a chest, handed down from some great-grandmother. Carved all up and down it ran tulips and roses, odd-looking flourishes, and from fanciful thickets little stags stuck out their antlered heads. Right in the middle of this chest a whole man was carved. He would make you laugh to look at him grinning away, though one couldn't call his grinning laughing. He had hind legs like goats, a little horn on his forehead, and a long beard. All his children called him General Headquarters, Hindquarters, gives orders, front and rear, Sergeant Billy Goat Legs. It was a difficult name to pronounce, and not many people get to be called by it. But he must have been very important, or why should anyone have taken trouble to carve him at all? However, there he stood, forever eyeing a delightful little china shepherdess on the tabletop under the mirror. The little shepherdess wore golden shoes and looped up her gown fetchingly with a red rose. Her hat was gold, and even her crook was gold. She was simply charming. Close by her stood a little chimney sweep, as black as coal, but made of porcelain too. He was as clean and tidy as anyone could be, because you see, he was only an ornamental chimney sweep. If the china makers had wanted to, they could just as easily have turned him out as a prince, for he had a jaunty way of holding his ladder, and his cheeks were as pink as a girl's. That was a mistake, don't you think? He should have been dabbed with a pinch or two of soot. He and the shepherdess stood quite close together. They had both been put on the table where they stood, and having been placed there, they had become engaged because they suited each other exactly. Both were young, both were made of the same porcelain, and neither could stand a shock. Near them stood another figure, 3 times as big as they were. It was an old